Remember that chaotic scramble to remote work a few years ago? For most companies, it was literally just about keeping the lights on. But you know what? That whole work from home survival phase, it's completely over. Today, the winners and losers in the business world are being determined by who can take that basic makeshift setup and turn it into a deliberate, powerful strategy. We are moving way past just surviving. Today, in this explainer, we're going to look at how to transform distributed work from a logistical headache into a massive, undeniable strategic advantage for your organization.
So here's the million-dollar question. Can a distributed team actually outperform an in-office one? To find the definitive answer, we're going to unpack the real-world playbooks of organizations that aren't just theorizing about this. They're executing it at the highest level right now. Specifically, we'll dive deep into the comprehensive internal guides from Dr. First and Ignite HCM. These sources give us an incredibly detailed, field-tested blueprint for making remote work a genuine superpower.
The impact of getting this right is honestly staggering. According to Dr. First's 2024 Employee Engagement Survey, 86% of their staff feel empowered to fully own their productivity and outcomes while working remotely. Think about the psychology behind that for a second. There's this deeply ingrained, kind of outdated fear out there that if you don't hover over people's desks, productivity is just going to tank. But the data proves the exact opposite. When you remove micromanagement and give people true autonomy, they don't slack off, they step up. They take deep ownership of their work because they actually feel trusted and respected as professionals. And you know, that sense of ownership translates into massive outcomes, both for the humans and the business. 87% of employees report significantly enhanced overall well-being. 83% say their work actually motivates them, and 82% praise the flexibility to balance the real-world demands of their lives. Just paint a picture of what these numbers mean on a daily basis. An employee who is well-rested, who isn't completely burned out by a grueling commute, and who has the flexibility to handle, say, a quick family appointment, they are inherently more engaged. Rested, flexible employees are simply more productive when they sit down to do the work. Dr. First CEO G. Cameron Deemer absolutely hits the nail on the head here. He says you shouldn't have to give up learning and friendships and advancement opportunities just because you work remotely. And Dr. First shouldn't have to give up agility. This is huge. Remote work is not a compromise. It's not a consolation prize. It's an intentional design that serves both the human being and the bottom line. It acknowledges a vital dual benefit. You get an enriching, supportive environment for the employee and a high-performing, hyper-agile engine for the business. So, here is our game plan. We'll cover 5 key areas: the remote-first reality, trust over surveillance, mastering time and tech, bridging cultures and borders, and finally, culture beyond the screen. Let's dive in. Starting right off with Section 1, the remote-first reality. To really understand this reality, we have to completely rewire our baseline assumptions about how a team actually functions. The old office way assumed a synchronous default. It relied almost entirely on forced proximity, the idea that work only happens when everyone is visibly sitting in the exact same room at the exact same time. But the new remote-first way, it operates on an asynchronous default. Work happens continuously regardless of time zones. And what does that unlock? Well, Dr. First notes their workforce now spans 38 states. Ignite HCM points out that this allows you to tap into a global talent pool, setting up this amazing continuous relay race of productivity. When a team in one time zone logs off, a team in another time zone picks up the baton, giving you 24/7 coverage and round-the-clock innovation. Work fundamentally becomes something you do, not someplace you sit. Moving on to our second pillar, trust over surveillance. This brings us directly to the biggest, quietest fear that managers face. How do you actually know your team is working if you can't physically see them? The Dr. First Playbook addresses this head-on with a profound quote from Stephen R. Covey. In the world of remote work, trust isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. If you are trying to manage a distributed team without deep, foundational trust, you are basically managing a slow-motion disaster. A lack of trust creates this toxic, paralyzing environment where people engage in performative busyness, just wiggling their mouths to prove they're online, rather than doing deep, meaningful work. To fix this, you have to make a permanent mindset shift in how you evaluate performance. We are moving completely away from activity tracking. Seriously, nobody should be monitoring keystrokes, tracking mouse clicks, or obsessing over a green status dot on a chat app. Instead, you move entirely to results-based evaluation. You measure goals, outcomes, and tangible impact. Practically speaking, this means using tools like Leapsome, a performance and goal management platform, to make every project status completely transparent. When expectations are crystal clear, you don't need to track hours. Employees will self-manage their time to hit those targets. Now, building that level of trust doesn't just happen by accident, right? Ignite HCM provides some highly actionable strategies for this. First, and perhaps most importantly, assume positive intent. We've all been there. You get a blunt, two-word reply on Slack from a colleague in another time zone, and you instantly assume they're mad at you. Tone is notoriously difficult to read over text, so in a remote environment, you must actively assume your colleagues mean well to avoid unnecessary friction. Second, co-create clear goals so expectations are aligned from day one. Third, prioritize 30-minute one-on-ones at least every other week. These are your vital lifelines. They literally replace that casual desk drop-by where you'd normally catch up. And finally, cultivate radical transparency by making sure essential info is documented and accessible around the clock. All right, let's jump into Section 3, Mastering Time and Tech.
Since we're no longer relying on endless real-time meetings to get things done, we have to fully embrace asynchronous tools. Think of this as the digital machinery that keeps the relay race moving. We're talking about using Loom to record 5-minute video updates so your team can watch them on their own schedule rather than trying to book a sync meeting. We're talking about Miro for collaborative digital whiteboarding, or Jira to keep complex project tasks highly visible to everyone. Leveraging these systems allows your team to achieve deep, uninterrupted focus while ensuring projects keep moving forward across different regions without annoying bottlenecks.
But look, of course, you still need some live, synchronous interaction to brainstorm and build rapport. Ignite HCM offers brilliant strategies for these remote logistics. First, you need to establish overlapping golden hours. For example, if you have teams in New York and London, that 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern window, that is a sacred, protected time block where those time zones overlap for live collaboration. If your teams are spread even further, somebody is always getting the short end of the stick, so you must actively rotate meeting times globally to be fair. You also absolutely must protect off-hours religiously to prevent burnout. And this last one is a real operational game changer. Treat your digital calendar like a physical in-out board. Keep your status updated so colleagues aren't waiting around for an answer while you stepped away to grab lunch.
Actually, transitioning to this model is tough, which is why Ignite HCM maps out a super concrete 90-day rollout plan. Why spend all of month 1 just on foundation building and setting communication norms? Because unlearning decades of bad in-office habits takes time. Month 2 then focuses on process development, where you officially roll out and train the team on your asynchronous systems so everyone is speaking the same digital language. And month 3, that's optimization and celebration. Why celebrate? Because acknowledging early wins and sharing success stories is how you secure permanent team buy-in. It gives managers a really clear step-by-step roadmap to establish a healthy rhythm.
That brings us to Section 4, Bridging Cultures and Borders.
As you build a global workforce, you have to actively guard against what's known as HQ bias. We've all experienced that awkward hybrid meeting nightmare, right? 3 people are laughing in a physical conference room, sketching on a whiteboard, while the one remote worker is squinting at a blurry screen feeling entirely left out. The information gets trapped at headquarters, and remote workers feel like second-class citizens. The solution here is remote equality. This means enforcing remote-first meetings, meaning if even one person is remote, everyone joins from their individual laptops on camera to level the playing field. It also mandates creating robust, accessible documentation, so literally nobody is left out of the loop just because they aren't physically in the building to hear the hallway chatter.
And finally, Section 5, Culture Beyond the Screen. A successful remote playbook doesn't just manage the tasks, it manages the human experience to combat isolation. You have to actively humanize the digital workspace. Whether that's setting up a dedicated channel to share pictures of your pets or hosting goofy remote activities, these moments matter deeply. It's also why leaning into a camera-on culture is highly recommended. Seeing a face, catching a smile, and reading subtle nonverbal cues naturally breaks down those digital barriers. It builds essential psychological safety and empathy between teammates who might be sitting thousands of miles apart.
Back in an office, serendipity and knowledge osmosis happen naturally by the water cooler. Remotely, those moments do not happen by accident. You have to intentionally engineer connection. Dr. First does this practically through virtual learning lunches and cross-department mentorship programs. They also create open virtual doors, where senior leaders might hold open Zoom office hours while they work, allowing younger staff to just drop in and absorb knowledge naturally. Another simple but highly effective trick is to always start your structured weekly leadership meetings with a few minutes of personal small talk and personal wins before diving into the agenda. You have to actively schedule the social space that the physical office used to provide by default.
A healthy remote culture also fiercely protects its downtime. And this really operates on a trickle-down effect. The playbook advises everyone to proudly signal their paid time off. Put it clearly on the shared calendar, set up an effective out-of-office reply, and absolutely, completely disconnect. This is vital for leadership to model. If executives are answering emails from the beach, junior staff will feel immense pressure to stay online during their own vacations. Respecting true work-life boundaries from the top down is the only way you ensure your remote talent pool doesn't just survive the quarter, but thrives over the long term without burning out.
So we've seen the powerful data behind autonomy, we've unpacked the exact asynchronous logistics, and we've explored the deep cultural mindset shifts required to make a distributed team highly successful. Just surviving remote work is no longer enough. I want you to look at your own calendar and communication channels tomorrow. Are you operating a truly distributed, asynchronous powerhouse, or are you just awkwardly replicating a 1990s office on a computer screen? The tools and playbooks are right in front of you, so how will you turn your remote work policy into your biggest strategic advantage? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to break down the strategies that shape our world.